mostly, I want you to feel like you can drift and dream as always. Of course, let me know. I want to know your reactions too. We're going to start this with some emotional reads on these campaigns. What's evoked by these campaigns, and I do mean to keep this a little more surface level for the moment. Companies who are trying to sell to you or earn your curiosity, loyalty, or trust are trying to stir your emotions. They want you to remember them through emotional association, through an emotional lens. Because, of course, the idea is that when you feel stronger emotional ties to a brand, you'll invest in that brand over time. Positive associations. Cap's latest campaign features the international K-pop group Cat's Eye and a large group of dancers. In Cap's typical musical style, with a lot of sultry styling for sure, a lot of playful attitude. They don't speak any words in the main spots. It's more about the lyrics and the vibes, as usual with Gap campaigns. A recently kind of nostalgic, spicy track is playing. It's better than yours. And then Gap CMO, the Chief Marketing Officer, said that they did want to amplify culturally relevant voices. American Eagle's campaign features actress and spokesmodel Sydney Sweeney. It keeps the also sultry focus on her with a kind of chilled out conversational style and selling you but not selling you message. Basically says her jeans are great, that you can look great too. Their chief marketing officer, the AE American Eagle CMO, said that he expected their work to move culture and conversation. really mainstreamed that clothing as a movement kind of genre of ads, using that dance in those TV commercials to communicate that versatility, inclusivity. The denim is for everyone, right? It's the thing about jeans. Anyone can wear them. And youth culture for Gap. So those ads became a cultural moment back then. Other companies have tried a similar approach. Recently, the much older brand Lee Jeans came out with an ad that looks kind of similar. American Eagle also tried similar things in the 2000s. Fairly diverse groups of young people, usually in a kind of festival or hangout context. The Sydney Sweeney ad represents more of a shift for American Eagle. Troye Sivan, the pop star, has been in ads for both companies. Very similar. He was in last year's Dancing Gap ad. And in 2016, or in the last 10 years, was in an ad for American Eagle. The tagline or the hashtag was "We All Can." So American Eagle who's it for? These campaigns. Who are they for? All campaigns want eyeballs, people paying attention. But digital campaigns want them to the max because of our algorithms, right? In digital marketing, we call this an engagement flywheel sometimes. Any reaction, even outrage, fuels visibility. It's not that old. It's not that new. Like the Kendall Jenner ad, a Pepsi and a protest. If a brand runs a campaign on YouTube, they want people watching, liking, commenting, sharing, subscribing. These are all good signals to the YouTube algorithm. It will boost their campaign to more and more people. At the same time, not everyone who sees the campaign will necessarily buy product. Some might be watching just because they admire the pop stars and actors representing the models, the dancers, and the ad features. Some will watch because they agree with their perception of the brand's values. Some will watch even if they're upset. It all helps the brand's exposure. Unless the video is reported by enough people or disliked by enough people. Brands bet. They make a bet that for every person who's just looking at their campaign, they will reach buyers and loyalists. The Gap campaign is probing for younger people, for sure. They want to stay that voice in the room that recognizes a sophisticated, global, transcendent kind of cool with hundreds of millions of views in weeks. The American Eagle campaign is a little more nuanced, I think. Sydney Sweeney has become less of a clear tie back to the phenomenon of euphoria and more of a fan-driven mainstay of advertising with her collaboration with Dr. Squatch, Hey Dude Shoes, more and counting. She has some new movies coming out as well, of course. Also meant to reposition her own brand a little bit. That's another video. Either way, both of these campaigns super directly or indirectly. And a huge tool is timing. Remember, we discussed the universality of emotional appeal earlier in these advertising campaigns. We are only human. We are vulnerable to feeling things, doing things based on the moment. Based on the moment that someone catches us in. So, if we ask, was the American Eagle campaign released to communicate or subvert a message or mood? Was it meant more directly to glorify one look, one type of people, and maybe reject another or others? If you look at the company's official stance, what American Eagle posted in response, they'll tell you that it's about the jeans, about how we all have stories to tell, and Sydney had a story to tell about wearing jeans our own way. But company PR is also strategic. These responses are calculated, of course. Even if you start a scandal and didn't mean to, your response will be strategic. The only way for a company to avoid deploying strategy is to stop existing. Even doing nothing is a decision that they had to think about. I've been in those rooms. So take those statements from brands with a bit of a grain of salt. Big brands who are clawing for attention in this information-heavy world of ours, they are looking to resonate with groups of people during specific moments of time. Differentiating, remember, making themselves stand out or align with people is very important. What about the boss's views or the boss's bosses? Did they impact these campaigns? Can they impact a campaign? I've heard people say, no, they're too busy. They're too high up in the corporate chain. But typical annual advertising budgets are significant spends. And I have had TV commercial scripts in my hands with notes from the CEO. Trust me, they make time. In a larger company, it may get diluted with layers of approvals, but they make time. So while we don't know for certain, it's not a wild leap to say that a marketer's views or their leader's views can impact the company's messages. So then, did Gap respond to the American Eagle campaign? Was their timing intentional? Were they trying to counter or subvert the American Eagle campaign and plan it that way? Well, we dug into Gap's history lightly together, and this motif of youth, dance, universality, of showing many kinds of people, subversion, it's not new. So it's not quite a rebrand for Gap. Beyond that, campaigns production, legal, brand, and leader review periods. And the volume of content of this Gap campaign was huge. Lots of behind the scenes and other extensions of the campaign across TikTok, Shorts, and on. And that takes time too. So it would be very surprising if it was made in direct reaction to American Eagle's campaign. But it hit something I think that will be ultimately more valuable, which is that lightning in a bottle timing. That accidental serendipitous timing. Because if the American Eagle ad did make people feel frustrated, if it did make them feel pushed out or not seen, the Gap ad became an equalizer. It struck timing gold. So what about the merchandising? What about the reasons to believe, as we say? Every brand needs the proof in their pudding. They need to put their money where their mouth is. Or customers go, why did you make this promise and then break it? So what about the clothes and the commitments? Both companies cleaned up well financially here, by the way. American Eagle, the Sydney jean, was reported to sell out in 24 hours. And that specific pair of jeans, the Sydney jeans, the proceeds went to a text line, the Crisis Text Line, which is for mental health services, accessible mental health services, the site says. Maybe a virtue signal or passion project that stayed a bit more hushed for the campaign. The Sydney jean also featured a butterfly in support of domestic violence awareness, which the site says Sydney Sweeney is really passionate about, but definitely kept quieter in the overall brand story. Gap made custom items for Cat's Eye, in addition to a ready-to-wear collection. They made a Cat's Eye sweatshirt that also sold out. I haven't seen word of any of those custom items being made available more broadly. I remember seeing, in my opinion, a really adorable shirt. And let me tell you, second only to the core reactions of this campaign are the consumer voices calling out the big miss on those Cat's Eye only shirts. Aspirational campaign indeed. Overall, Gap really refreshes its legacy of work with this campaign, with some really notable timing. American existing to produce. They are not thinking about individuals or our futures in the same way we may sometimes be thinking about these brands. And of course, our